Guys, do you struggle finding jeans that are comfortable and the perfect fit? Then you gotta try Mott & Bow. Mott & Bow jeans are beautifully handcrafted. They use only the finest denim fabrics from the best mills in the world. Family artisans have been honing their denim skills for 35 years, and this is evident the second you put on the first pair. Mott & Bow jeans are ridiculously comfortable with a classic, clean style. And get this, they're at least half the price of designer jeans of some of the same quality that sell for over $200. Mott & Bow is also currently the only jean company on the market to offer a free home try-on program. Just choose your first pair, along with an alternate waist size. They'll send you both pairs so you can decide which is the best fit for you. Then send the other one back free. Just try Mott & Bow today, and you'll notice a difference between them and every other pair of jeans you own, yeah, even the ones you have on right now. For 20% off your first purchase, visit mottandbow.com and enter the code MIKE at checkout. That's spelled MOTTANDBOW.com, promo code MIKE.
It's time for some straight talk. The big wireless companies charge a boatload for their superior network coverage. But guess what? Straight Talk uses the same cell towers but charges a lot less. Who knew? Well, now you do. And I do. So let's do something. It's time to switch to Straight Talk. Unlimited plans start as low as $35 a month on America's largest, most dependable networks. Straight Talk Wireless. Only at Walmart.
Savings may vary. A month equals 30 days. Please refer always to the latest terms and conditions of service at straighttalk.com.
Hope everybody's enjoying their Friday. Maybe you're going to sleep in. Maybe you're headed out this weekend. Maybe you're looking at that college football slate that's absolutely packed. Or maybe you're a Seahawks fan despite the win on Thursday Night Football. A little bummed out. Richard Sherman out with that Achilles tear. I'm Ryen Russillo from the Russillo Show, 1 to 4 Eastern, every day on ESPN Radio, alongside a guy who's my co-host 3 days a week. It's Will Cain. I got to tell you, whenever I do the show and you have all the bumps of production, I just sat here. I don't think I paid attention to any of the stuff that I'm supposed to do, even though there's a million moving parts when you host the show, because watching Greeny dressed up for Halloween, that rip that we just had, and look, a week to go with these guys. I cannot imagine doing this job with these hours with one other person for almost 20 years. I can't imagine it. That's more taxing than I think to be married to somebody like that, because that's what this is. When you do radio with somebody this long and you're in a room, like, hey, I'm going to see you more than my family for the next 2 decades.
Yeah, to put this into context, I said this to you the other day when I was on your show. You and I have been hanging out together 3 hours a day, 3 days a week for about 2 months now. And you, somehow, some guy that grew up, I don't know what is it, the outskirts of, no, Martha's Vineyard. See, this is how well I know you already. You have become the person in life that I talk to the most.
Yeah.
I talk to you more than my wife and children.
Does that bother you?
I haven't really taken the time to reflect on it, but it probably will once I do.
Yeah, does your wife know how much we're talking right now? Do you think your wife would like me? Do you have an opinion on that one yet?
What makes you think she doesn't already have opinions about you?
Yeah, actually, that was the dumbest thing I'm going to do today.
No, she likes you. By the way, just to square this circle, to think how long Greeny and Golick have been talking to each other, 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, 20 hours a week talking to each other, I will guarantee you there is no person in their life they have spent as much time exchanging words and ideas with, and maybe never will. Like when the whole Mike and Greenberg and Mike Golick chapter is written and you ledger it up, who did you talk to and spend the most time with in your life? The answer will be each other.
Yeah, how do you not get emotional at the end of that stuff? Like when Van Pelt and I broke up, we didn't cry. I mean, it was 6 years. We had a good run, and then we moved on to other things. But to sit there in a room with someone for 20 years almost, it's doing the job. If you're listening, if you're watching right now, you go, hey, I got it. I work with a lot of people. Be like, man, but this is a very one-on-one where your entire world, your whole conversation is just out there. So I don't
take it out of the job context. What if I said to you this, okay? I want to talk to you about your life. I'm going to make a devil's deal with you here. For the next 20 years, I'm going to lock you in a room with one other person, and you have to spend 4 hours a day with that person. What would you trade me for that deal?
Well, congrats to those guys. It'll be a lot of fun to come on that last week. It's going to be great. And watching those guys dressed up. I mean, whenever Greeny's doing the dance deal, the Vanilla Ice, or Robin, which there was no – how long do you think that debate was? Who's going to be Batman? Who's going to be Robin in that one? All right, so a lot of stuff we want to get to. The NFL, I got to talk about this offseason because it's going to be great. The quarterbacks, the list, the need, the draft stuff at the top. There's like 3 moving pieces here. They're going to make this offseason, at least we think as of right now, incredibly interesting. But with Will Cain, Russillo here, I want to start with what we just finished the last hour with, and that's looking at the college football playoff rankings. Now, at the top, it's not a huge shock because the rankings were announced. There wasn't a lot of suspense in this whole deal. Georgia 1, Bama 2, Notre Dame 3, Clemson at number 4. You would like 16 teams to be in a playoff? You don't really mean 16, do you? I think you do.
I do, just from a sheer fun and chaos perspective. But I think 8 is reasonable. I think 8 is rational. 8 should happen.
8's not bad. 8's not a bad number. I don't know why we're so upset when people are left out. I understand that fan base. I understand that conference going, hey, how come we're left out? Well, some people are going to be left out. Some people are going to be left out. And by going to 8, it makes you feel like, oh, we solved all of our problems. We have the 5 conference champions. Maybe we even throw one of those group of 5 teams in there. I would push against that quite a bit. But if you start going to 16, the way it sits right now, and we're going to have 3, maybe 4 lost teams, why is that team allowed to be in the conversation of playing for a national championship? That's why I still kind of like 4, because it should matter. That's why I argue against your soft record if you have a soft schedule. Okay, I don't necessarily always care about undefeated. I love Wisconsin. Okay, I love going out there. But if they get through this and they're 13-0 and Bama's undefeated and in, and the Big 12 champ, which I think is a much better conference than it's been in recent years, is only a 1-loss team. And if it's Oklahoma with their win against Ohio State, if it's Clemson figuring this whole thing out and winning another good conference in the ACC, and it's Notre Dame taking care of Miami this weekend, I'm not going to want an undefeated conference champ who I don't think is one of the 4 best teams. If you don't think Wisconsin is one of the 4 best teams, I think it's okay to leave them out. Now, if you were in that committee and you say, no, I've watched Wisconsin, I like them, I think they're one of the 4 best, all right, that's fine. Put them in there. But leaving them out isn't the end of the world to me that makes me go, we have to have an expansion, the way you've talked about.
I agree with your premise. It's not the worst thing in the world to leave someone out. It's not the worst thing in the world to have this debate all the way up through the end of the season because it gives meaning and value and weight to every single game in the regular season. I get that. If you want to be in the top 4, you better take care of business along the way, and that means, every game matters, and leaving someone out is the way to throw that weight on the scale. What I'm here to tell you is you still have all that with 8. With 8, you're still leaving somebody out. If the season ended today, do you know who would be left out of your top 8?
Washington.
Pac-10 champion Washington. Projected Pac-10 champion Washington. So you'd have all the same debates, but more deserving teams would get in. More teams with a legit shot at winning the national championship would be in the tournament.
So you want 8.
I want 8.
Do you want 16 and you're just afraid to say 16? Because 16, you start doing the Mississippi State, Virginia Tech, UCF debate. And I know the UCF debate's going, well, what are you talking about? Yeah, we're 8-0. How come we're not even higher in the committee rankings? My point would be at 16, we're talking about those teams, getting hot. I know 9-7 Giants fan is pumped that you won some Super Bowls. I don't think 9-7, the college football equivalent, should be allowed to compete for a national championship.
I just think if it was 16, that month would be so fun.
It would be. It'd be fun, but then
that bracket would be awesome.
Yeah, but then you'd go, Virginia Tech got hot at the right time. You'd be like, you know what? They should have never been invited. They should have never been invited if we're talking about 16 teams.
Look at this. Bama, Mississippi State, theoretically, it's one off, but that could be your opening weekend to the tournament right there. 2 versus 16. You'd want 1 versus 16, but.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. Right. I mean, it feels like 1 for 16, but number 2 in the rankings as of right now. All of our guests in the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line tune in today for college basketball action as Texas A&M takes on West Virginia in the Armed Forces Classic. Presented by Sport Clips. Coverage begins at 5:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNRadio.com, and the ESPN app. This offseason could be unprecedented for quarterbacks. What do we know about quarterbacks in the NFL? It is a certainty that if they're good, you don't get them to free agency. Peyton Manning being a free agent years ago before he went to Denver, that only happened because you had this perfect storm of his multiple injuries. A neck injury, no one was quite sure what was going to happen. They also sit there with the number 1 pick with a generational type talent, Andrew Luck, so they're ready to move on. So Peyton Manning becomes a free agent when guys that can still contribute rarely become free agents. But this year, whether it's Kirk Cousins, maybe even Drew Brees, I have a hard time believing Garoppolo is going to be a free agent here when you spend a second-round pick to bring him in, no matter all the different moving pieces. You've got all of the Vikings quarterbacks, Bridgewater, Bradford, Keenum. Who knows what could happen with A.J. McCarron? I'm not going to put Tom Savage as a guy that's going to be in desperate – maybe he turns it around here at the end, but I don't think Savage is going to be the guy going, that's who we're starting our franchise with. You combine that with the teams that need QBs and the top of the draft, which is going to be bad teams picking that already have quarterbacks, whether it's the Colts, the Giants. This could get really, really weird with 3 different moving pieces this offseason.
I think free agency won't end up being quite the bonanza that we expect it to be right now. A few weeks ago, there was talk about whether or not the Saints, if they're not at the top of their game, could theoretically move on from Drew Brees, start looking towards their future. Looking at the Saints at 6-2 now, and their present is as valuable as it is, you can't imagine them moving on from Drew Brees. So you might end up with Kirk Cousins and change as your free agent quarterbacks, because I agree with you, Garoppolo, I can't imagine him moving on from San Francisco. But when you combine it, as you just did, with the top of the draft, which, by the way, I think as the season goes on, isn't just 3 guys, but is emerging to be 5 guys, not just Darnold, Allen, and Rosen, but Baker Mayfield and Mason Rudolph, 5 legit guys. And then you add in, what's Eli Manning's future? You do have a pool of quarterbacks that you could say next year, how many teams will be starting new quarterbacks? How many starting quarterbacks on new teams will there be next year?
So if I go through the list, and I feel like I do this every single week, check me on any of these that you feel like, okay, no, that's wrong, or somebody I'm leaving out. Buffalo and the Tyrod Taylor thing has been frustrating for both the team and the player. If Buffalo were in the market for another quarterback after Tyrod having some really good games this season, by the way, I don't think that'd be a shock to us. The history is there. They told Tyrod Taylor to go find another deal, but we want to give you a $10 million pay cut.
And he's played pretty well this year.
He has, right. The Jets game wasn't great. He's a weird – Mina Kimes has this great piece on ESPN The Magazine where he's just this really weird evaluation. You go, what is he? Is he really good statistically and underrated in person? Or
always
is he
high in QBR.
Yeah, or is he like some statistical anomaly who actually doesn't make as many plays as you need? All we know is that Buffalo was ready to move on from him. They told him, hey, you know what? It's an open relationship. Date some other people.
Right.
I mean, I'll be here if you don't find anything else, and we'll talk to you. We'll let you move back in.
And that's what happened.
Yeah. So Buffalo, I think it's fair to put there. The Jets, despite Randy McCown's brother's performance this year, the Jets are a no-brainer. Cleveland's going to need somebody else. They're going to have a pick. Jacksonville. You know what's the craziest thing about this Jacksonville resurgence is that does the defense become so great, and the Jags have been terrific on that side of the football, are they so good defensively that it kind of saves Bortles' career, where they go, okay, you know what? Blake Bortles isn't going to be a stud. He's not going to be a stud. But he's good enough with what we're doing to keep him around. That's kind of one of the sneakiest, untold stories of the entire season.
Yeah, and I don't have an answer for you because where all of us are toying with the idea, could Eli end up in Jacksonville? I think the question is, how much is the investment worth upgrading from Blake Bortles? Is it worth a high draft pick? Is it worth the trade that you have to pull off for Eli? Is it worth a free agent contract you'd throw off at X quarterback?
So Jacksonville is a maybe. Denver it has to be a yes.
Has to be a yes.
Simeon got worse. Lynch has been hurt. Osweiler's the guy as of now. Is the Simeon thing salvageable? Can you say, Trevor, we'll figure this out. He will be a starter. He's going to be a guy every week for multiple years. Even if you're not even sure the answer to that, I'd imagine more people are saying no as I ask that question right now. Even if you don't know the answer, you got to figure out something else.
And where do you go to figure it out? They've gone to the draft with Paxton Lynch. Do they go back to the draft? Did they try to do something in trade? Are they a team that sits there and tries to pull Eli out of New York? It's a viable team in Denver, but for the quarterback.
Defense is still great, and you can look at the point totals against Philly. There are great defenses that once they realize it is hopeless because the offense can't do anything, statistically then they become a worse defense even though the talent's still there. Minnesota, I don't know what you do.
Well, because 2 of their quarterbacks are on this list of free agent quarterbacks, both Bradford and Bridgewater.
All of them are on this list.
Oh, yeah, Keenum is too, right?
Yeah. And Keenum's actually been okay.
Right.
You come back with Keenum going, we got a good enough of a defense. The offensive line's improved a little bit. Do you take another swing at Bradford? I don't think you can.
So of those 3 right now, which one of those 3 would you put the odds on will not be back in Minnesota next year? Bradford.
Yeah. And then Arizona. Palmer's out for the year. Who knows what happens with Arians? He seems like he's still into it. Drew Stanton's the guy. So as you said with the draft, and this is where it all comes back around, maybe Breeze likely the Saints go, let's figure it out.
Right.
Okay, let's see what happens with this team this year. Kirk Cousins, I don't know. Garoppolo, I would be shocked if he's not the starter week 1 in 2018 for San Francisco.
Right.
So when you look at who has the worst records, meaning the top picks in the draft, San Francisco, the Browns, the Giants, the Bucks, the Colts. Those are your 5 teams with the worst records. The Niners have a guy. The Giants, in theory, have a guy. But we brought this up very early on where you go, if the Giants go real south, would they draft someone Would they draft someone and trade Eli? Would they keep him there for a year and then he's a free agent in 2019? Tampa and the Colts. So it's really 4 of those 5 teams may not even want to draft a QB. And then that turns all these other teams that we just listed into big-time buyers before draft time. If people freaked out and moved up for Carson Wentz and Jared Goff, what do you think they're going to do for Rosen, Darnold? Although I think Darnold may be staying. The more people I talk to think he could stay at USC. But if it's a 4-quarterback class, 4 guys that are evaluated as first-rounders, all of these other middle-tier teams that don't have those top picks are all going to be paying first-rounders just to move up and take these teams if these teams are not involved other than, say, the Browns.
And those teams right there. So of our list of teams that are going to be picking at the top of the draft, it's Browns and Giants who could be in the quarterback market. 2 teams.
Yeah, Niners no, Bucks no, Colts no. So that would be, Giants and Browns.
And then let me ask you this. The Browns have shown no inclination to invest at the top of the draft in a rookie quarterback. They got Kaiser last year. Are they going to – is this the year they finally pony up and go, we're sliding all the chips in on Josh Rosen?
Well, when they moved out of Wentz, the front office was adamant about this. They go, just because you need someone doesn't mean it changes your evaluation. If a team wasn't high on Carson Wentz, I was okay with it at the time. I felt like what the Eagles were doing, you go, this is how you get fired. You're bringing in someone who played in the FCS, missed half a senior season, a little bit older as a prospect. Like, you're going to trade up for that guy? And guess what? It's totally worked out, and they're awesome. All right, congrats to them. So when the Browns passed on them, you go, that makes a little bit of sense. But would the Browns be so married to their ways that they would pass on a quarterback again, or would they go, hey, people think we didn't send in the emails for the trade deadline.
McCarron, right.
Everybody thinks we're like the dumbest front office now.
We might need to take Josh Rosen in 2.
Even if we don't think Rosen is all that, we're probably going to get fired. Should we take somebody now? I mean, that would be the all-time. Like, hey, sorry, we just didn't. Yeah, we know everybody thinks we're bad at this. We did not evaluate Rosen as a top 10 guy. We took a corner.
Process guys tend to go down with the process, right? They don't.
Well, Hinkie now should be reaping the benefits of the process.
Hinkie should have his face on Mount Rushmore. Like they should carve out a 5th face on Mount Rushmore, and it should be Sam Hinkie, because there's no way to make up for what he did for Philadelphia and is getting 0 credit for.
Hit us up at Mike and Mike, 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Mike and Mike is presented by Progressive Insurance with Will Cain and Ryen Russillo today. 5-point stance brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit us at geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO. All right, you ready to do this?
Yeah, it's awkward there's only 4 faces on Mount Rushmore. I always think 5. Back to your rule of 5s.
Okay, 5-point stance.
Right now on Mike and Mike. Let's go. It's time for the 5-point stance.
Tom Brady, 3-7 all-time in Denver, including the playoffs, his worst road win percentage against a single team that he's faced more than once. Since the start of the 2015 season, including the playoffs, Brady is 1-2 against the Broncos, 32-6 all-time against other teams.
Tom Brady, headline from Monday, 4-7 all-time in Denver.
You just get right to the facts, huh? You're like Jalen Ramsey, straight facts.
That's like, I have like that almanac from Back to the Future. The Patriots will win in Denver this weekend.
Imagine if they didn't win this time. Like, he may just be like, hey, I know it was Brock Osweiler, but nice to get a W out here. Eli Manning scheduled to make his 208th consecutive start on Sunday, which will tie his brother Peyton for the second longest streak by a quarterback in NFL history. Brett Favre owns the record with 297 consecutive starts.
Eli Manning will not approach Brett Favre's record of 297.
Is that what you're doing? You're just doing fortune telling?
I just realized it worked. I'm very confident in those 2 predictions.
You really think he's not going to be there next year?
He's at 208, man. Favre's record is 297.
No, I'm not even talking about that. I've already gone back to what we were just talking about. You were right, Will. You were right. It's going to be hard to believe that he's going to pull off 89 more of these deals.
Does he pull off 12 more?
I just want to know if he's going to have more in New York after this season.
Yes.
You think Giants fans
Eli will be a Giants quarterback next year is my prediction.
All right, next one. The 4 current division leaders in the NFC all missed the playoffs last season. This is incredible how this league works. Eagles, Vikings, Saints, and Rams. Since the NFL went to 8 divisions in 2002, there's never been 4 division champs from one conference who all missed the playoffs the previous season. We do this at the start of every football season. We go, okay, here are your teams. Take out 6, put in 6 new ones, and it feels impossible. You always go, hey, this is the year we're going to have more teams repeating, and it never, ever is. Minnesota, surprised because of the Rodgers injury, maybe not so much. The South is always all over the place, but the Rams are the best story in the NFC, even more so than the Eagles.
How many of those 4 will win their division when this whole thing is said and done? My Back to the Future Almanac prediction, 3. Eagles, Vikings, Saints, and Rams. Vikings will not win the North.
Who's going to win the North? That might be the easiest one. You're saying Detroit?
Yeah, Detroit's the threat, yes.
All right.
Are the Seahawks going to catch the Rams?
Yeah, they could definitely catch the Rams. They have another game with them. They're at home. They're in Seattle. I'm going to say no, I don't know, man. All right, I'm going to say somebody catches the Saints. All right?
All right.
They love that when you come on the show and you go, I don't have an answer. I'm sorry.
Everybody loves I don't have an answer.
Next one. Speaking of the Saints, looking to win their 7th straight game immediately following an 0-2 start. The only team to accomplish that feat in the Super Bowl era, the 1993 Cowboys, who won the Super Bowl.
I could keep this whole thing going and make a prediction that the Saints will not win the Super Bowl.
Done. Final one. The 6-2 Rams take aim at their best 9-game start since going 8-1 in 2001 with a win at home against the Texans. Sean McVay's team has scored 263 points, which is 39 more points than they scored all of last season. We are talking about a team that is now number 3 in defense, number 9 in offense. The Rams statistically been great. Some of that schedule stuff says they've played the second easiest schedule in the NFL, but it's hard for me to knock them anymore because even if there's a correction, even if there's a fight in the last week of them even getting into the playoffs, this is the best story ever for Rams fans that you actually feel like you have a team that's competitive and a quarterback that's going to be there for 10 years. That's the win. It's not about 2017. The win is that I think we have something stable in Los Angeles.
Yeah, it's Sean McVay. Do you think right now that the Coach of the Year award is over in both the NFL and the NBA?
Wait a minute. NBA already?
Yes.
Are you going to give it to Brett Brown?
No.
I think Brett Brown and the Sixers should get it just because of everything. They should have given Brett Brown Coach of the Year before the season started, saying congrats on making it through this.
Jeff Van Gundy told us.
Van Gundy said to do what Brett Brown has done. He goes, Van Gundy's like, maybe year 1. Okay, I get it. He goes, year 2, I would have been a straitjacket by the end of it. And Brett Brown's always happy. Who's your NBA Coach of the Year?
Brad Stevens. You lose Gordon Hayward. Everyone in the world thinks you're going to have an awful defense, not just Will Cain. And you think... And you turn that into the number 1 defense.
You still have time. You still have like 70 games to see if they're going to be the same way defensively. Are you telling me McVay's winning it in a landslide over Doug Peterson?
Yes. Yes.
That is what you're saying.
I think you can start chiseling it into the trophy right now for Sean McVay.
Emphatically, yes.
You know I'm right, too.
I don't think he's going to win in a landslide, but I'd give it to McVay over Peterson. Probably because he's 30. Like McVay ran into a buddy of mine when we were walking to the ESPYs. And he knocks, and my buddy's going, man, this autograph. No, that guy doesn't want your autograph. He's an NFL head coach. I haven't shared that story yet. But McVay's a good dude. He was a good dude. All right, so coming up, we got Darren Woodson. We're going to go through all of this Jerry Jones, Roger Goodell stuff. We're going to maybe have a cross-examination because we were doing the Deion Sanders-Romo stuff on my show, and Will Cain wouldn't let Woodson leave the studio. That's next, coming up right here. Mike and Mike, ESPN Radio, ESPN2.
Hey everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for the Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Hey girl, have you done something new with your scales? Using new moisturizer? Nice. It really brings out the hazel in your eyes. Oh, hold on. Are you using whitening strips too? Your fangs look good, girl. Really good.
A really charming snake charmer? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Wait, what? Have you been doing Pilates too?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Mike and Mike with Will Cain and Ryen Russillo, the Russillo Show on ESPN Radio 1 to 4. We don't have to do that today. We got Adnan Verk and Jonathan Vilma, I believe. I wonder if Vilma's going to give him as hard a time as he gives me.
He gives you a hard time?
All day.
Like what?
I don't know. I don't think he knows. Darren Woodson.
He's just out to get you?
Just constantly. He's just calling me out, all sorts of stuff. Challenge me. He challenged me to everything. Woodson, when does it go away with you guys? You're over it.
He's
you
still
seem
young.
to be over
I'm
it.
over it. I'm over it. But, I just saw Vilma yesterday, and he was sizing me up in Sports Center. I mean, that's, think about it. He's a linebacker. He's only been out of the game for like 3 or 4 years now, right? Am I right? Something like 3 years? It takes at least 5 years to get
we're almost at 5.
out.
What do you mean sizing you up? Like he was eyeballing you?
Yeah, looking at me like,
he's 35. He was out at 31, I think. So, so you're right.
He still has it in him. He still has that he's got a little burning desire in him. Like, I'm serious. I mean, it took me about 4 years to figure out, look, I'm looking at guys like, I can still play. You don't look like you can still play. That's that look. Like, I can still play this game. So I think Vilma's still in it, man. He's just checking you. You're okay.
So is that
you're
the
gonna be all right.
Post-retirement, like you're going to a party, you, Darren Woodson, you're 3 years out of the league. It's an event function. There's going to be some other players there, and you got to be like, all right, who's in shape,
I got to look
who's
good,
not?
man. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Hey. Come on, man. I mean, we're no different than anyone else.
I'm serious. But the analysis, could you still play?
The analysis is, can you still play? Or do you look like you can still play? Because we all have that alpha dog mentality. And then, some guys, they'll lose it. They'll go one way or the other. Most of the time, they go the one way where they're putting on 40, 50 pounds eating donuts when they walk in the door. I mean, you see that guy and you say, you're done.
That guy hated working out.
You were a defensive back and you weighed 180 pounds. Now you're 275.
Who is that?
I'm not going to say that. No names. How you going to –
Is somebody –
how you going to put me on the spot?
No, that's
I just follow my curiosity, man. I just follow my curiosity.
No, it's really kind of smart, good content, but it's also like every time you go, give me a name, give me a percentage. Who's the fattest?
I want to know things.
Is there really a DB that weighs 270 now?
No, I mean,
doing the same thing.
Now it's out.
Yeah.
It's out.
Yeah, man, there's guys that, I would say 270, but I've seen guys go from
you know what said a lot,
175 to a good 245. And used to be on the Autobahn. Used to be out there on the cornerback position. I'm serious.
No, you look good, Darren. You don't have to worry about that. We had this thing because we love talking about Jerry. We love talking about because you and Jerry are tight.
I love Jerry.
Okay?
Yeah.
What is he trying to do here with this move with Roger Goodell?
You know what? Honestly, guys, I have no idea because I don't think he can't win this. This is not a win for Jerry because I think they're going to push this through. And Will, you'll probably know better than I do. But it looks like the league is, Arthur Blank and that group, their job is to push this through or make the decision on this. And I think they're going to make the decision to go ahead and pay Roger Goodell. I have no idea where what the end game is for Jerry, because I don't see it happening. I don't think he's got enough of the owners on his side to push it to stop this from happening. So I'm trying to figure out exactly how he's going to figure out how he's going to win. I know what he's upset about. I know he's upset about the whole Ezekiel Elliott situation. He's probably upset about some other things, but Ezekiel Elliott, the one that comes to mind right now, because in years past or months ago, Jerry was on the side of most of the owners as far as pushing this through, as far as, Roger Goodell's contract. Now, all of a sudden, that's changed, and it has to stem from the Zeke deal. I just don't know what his end game is.
Well, Jerry, obviously better than me, better than anyone else that walks through these halls of ESPN. This is my guess. I want you to tell me how far off. This is not about a legal case. It isn't even about Ezekiel Elliott. This is a Game of Thrones power play that Jerry Jones feels like somebody that works for him is treating him like Jerry works for Roger, as opposed to the other way around. Now, what's the end game in the long run? That's a great question, because I think you're right, but Jerry has to have his mind on the politics.
Yes.
He has to know how many guys he has in the room that are with him. So he's famous for saying, don't let your money get mad. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine he doesn't have a win envisioned. And I'm not sure it's in the courtroom. It may be neutering Roger Goodell's power moving forward. I just don't know, but I have to think Jerry's pretty Machiavellian about his goals here.
Yeah, he is. And there has to be a reason behind him going this far.
Right.
I think the Jerry I've always known is the guy is the Jerry that's brought people to the table, and he's figured out a way to make things work. That's Jerry. That's not only in Dallas, but nationally, whether it be going to the Rams going back to L.A. or Oakland going to Vegas. He's always that guy that brought everyone to the table, got them to open their eyes on the big picture, which was making money. Now the power move is something that I haven't seen. I hadn't seen this at all.
Well, he did it in the 90s. He did sue the league
as far as the marketing side of it, I agree with that early in the 90s. But this part of it, that's been years because he's always been a team player when it came to the NFL, the NFL owners.
This year's Cowboys, they're different, and we know the Ezekiel Elliott storyline is part of that. But how do you see these teams comparing this year's Cowboys with last year's Cowboys and now with the ruling that we have that we know that Elliott's at least going to be out the next month?
Look, I think this year's Cowboys, what we've seen, I can speak specifically to how they've looked defensively. They've been up and down defensively. Early on in the season, they were a defense that I felt like there's no way this is a championship team based off of what I'm seeing defensively. Over the last couple of weeks, especially when Sean Lee came back from the injury, they're a totally different group. DeMarcus Lawrence is playing outside of himself. David Irving is playing outside of himself.
What's David Irving's deal? Because some games I go, is this dude the nastiest guy?
Every game, it's just a matter of whether or not he's in the game.
Yeah, well, I think there's two parts of this. DeMarcus Lawrence's presence on the outside has really opened up some things because offensive lines are shifting that way to say, look, we can't let this guy get going. Now you got David Irving in the middle of the field, in the middle of the lineup, and he's getting one-on-one matchups, and he's destroying guards and centers by himself in the one-on-one matchups. So I think it's a little, of both of those guys playing off of each other that's allowed them to play this well. But the issue with me is, can the defense consistently play at this level? They have a tough one in Atlanta this week. Atlanta could easily put up a lot of points. This week will tell me a lot about the Dallas Cowboys football team.
Mike and Mike, Ryen, Russillo, and Cain in for the guys today. Earlier this week, we had you on the Russillo Show, Darren, and you talked about Tony Romo versus Deion Sanders. You talked.
My God!
I like how Will brings that all the way back up. I appreciate you, Will.
Well, the story evolves. You told us that there's been, let's call it a rivalry between Michael Irvin and Deion Sanders for some time.
Yeah.
Because Michael Irvin came out and took essentially Tony Romo's side in this. Last night, this is Michael Irvin on Twitter. He said this when someone included Michael, Deion, and Tony in the same tweet and said, as a diehard Cowboy fan, I'm asking you guys all to take the high road here. And Mike says, how did I get in this?
Wait a minute, that's just a fan?
Yeah. And Mike responds, though. Mike says, how did I get in this? And then someone says, even in college, Prime won most of the battles against you, Mike. And Mike CC's Deion on this and goes, you have bad info. The Miami Hurricanes never lost to FSU when I was there. What's going on with Mike and Deion?
Look, I said earlier about alpha dog mentality in that locker room. I mean, you got two guys with personalities that are they're going to win in every situation that they have. And even today, I mean, if you sat both of them down right now, Deion would tell you he won most of the battles, and Michael says just the opposite right here in front of us on TV. And I thought they were both, they're Hall of Famers, man. I mean, they are Hall of Famers. So however you cut it, it is what it is. But I look at this situation with the Romo and Deion taking shots, and it's almost like that feeling of being in that locker room, and guys are, we used to call it cracking on each other or, talking trash to each other one-on-one. And and anything's on the table. Everything's on the table. When you're in the locker room and you go back and forth with each other, kids are on the table, wives are. I mean, you go at each other, and that's Deion's mentality. I think Deion had the locker room mentality of, Romo took a shot at me. Well, I'm gonna throw back. I'm gonna fire right back at him, and that's the attitude that he had. Now it just spilled out into
Mike,
to Mike and everyone else, but that's Deion, and to me, I have no problem with it. Because I know the personalities, and it is what it is. So if people are taking offense to it, man, get over it.
I want your thoughts on Richard Sherman's injury. We know he's out now with the Achilles. And have you heard the Jalen Ramsey deal with A.J. Green? Have you heard this yet?
No.
You haven't heard this?
What? No, give it to me.
All right, so we're going to do this all next because you're going to hear Jalen Ramsey call out A.J. Green in a way A.J. Green has never been called out. Mm-hmm. And we're going to ask you to take sides on that one. So we'll do that one next. Darren Woodson staying with us here. Will Cain, Ryen Russillo, Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio, presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. An incredible story we want to tell you about here on Mike and Mike coming up very shortly. A great new TV show. I was checking out some of it online last night. Adventures, former military, former NFL players. We're going to talk to those guys coming up. The top of the next hour, it's Mike and Mike, Will Cain, Ryen Russillo, the Russillo Show on ESPN Radio, and Darren Woodson here. Mike and Mike reminding you, if you want to get in touch with us, tweet us at Mike and Mike through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. If your football obsession has strained a relationship, you need 1-800-Flowers.com. For a limited time, 1-800-Flowers is offering up 40% off of best-selling bouquets and gifts, perfect for birthdays and anniversaries. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Two things I got to do here with you. Richard Sherman, his Achilles, he's out. What's it mean for the Seahawks? Have to do that stuff. But I can't believe you haven't heard this yet. Jalen Ramsey, corner for the Jags, who's been terrific in his career.
Absolutely.
We knew
he was just here
fast.
on campus, a week ago?
Yeah,
2 weeks
bye
ago?
week. He showed up. Yeah. People got to meet him. We knew before the draft, he's like, I should go number one. What?
Yeah.
As a corner. But he got in the fight with A.J. Green. Yep. Here is him talking about A.J. Green and everything that happened at his – so this is Ramsey at his locker. There's a longer version of this, too, but he calls him out.
I didn't say nothing like that. But you feel me? I told him almost every play that he was weak, that he was soft. Them is straight facts. He just couldn't handle the truth. Them is facts. Told him that his time almost up. Told him that it was easy, which it was. He had one catch for 6 yards. I was just out there spitting facts to him. So he got mad.
Well, I don't think anything wrong with that. I mean, listen, man, we act like this is the only guy out there in the league that talks trash every day. I mean, guys talk like this all the time.
Okay, but that's not the debate. The debate here is that I went into this going, I know I'm going to stick up for A.J. Green.
Right.
I love A.J. Green. I think A.J. Green's the most underrated receiver of his era.
Right.
But, man, Jalen did kind of win the war.
Yeah,
and, I mean, what did he say? But he's calling him soft.
Yeah, man, that happens.
After the game, not talking trash on the field at the locker.
That's how it is.
Soft. Is A.J. Green soft?
No. And look, you can't – look at A.J. Green. Look at his track record and things that he's done on the field. Is he quiet? Yes. He's not, demonstrative like Ocho Cinco. I mean, he's a totally different guy. He's a guy that plays the game and does it in a professional manner outside of what happened this past weekend. But – A.J. Green has been one of the most dominant wide receivers in our league for years. So for us to think otherwise, that's crazy. I like the fact that how Ramsey went at him, because Ramsey is a guy that has an ultimate confidence, which you have to have. There's another guy that just tore his Achilles yesterday that's in Seattle. He talks a lot like that, a lot of trash, a lot like that. I mean, you have to have that mentality when you're on the outside. So does it stop after the game? No. I mean, after that fight, all bets are off. Guys are going to talk as much trash as they want to. And I respect the fact that Ramsey went at him. Hey, he's got to set himself as one of the best corners in the league, and he's going to talk trash by doing so.
Did you talk trash?
Not like that. I mean, there's a gift. There's a gift to it now. You have to there's a gift to talking trash. It's not like everyone is privileged to just talk. I was never that guy. I was so tired of chasing little guys around. I didn't have time. I'm serious. I'm chasing a guy around and I have to look at the sideline and look at Mike Zimmer and say, give me the next call. I didn't have time for all the trash talk. I left that up to Dion. I left that up to Kevin Smith, who was on the other side of me. I mean, the further you get away from the football, the more trash talking is going on. Because the closer you get in, the big tackles and the D linemen, they're all tangled up. They're tired, man. They're in and out of the game. The further away you get from it, whether you be a wide receiver, a cornerback, and sometimes safeties, there's some yapping going on. And that's how it works.
Did you worry, or did you think, or did any of your teammates think, if you didn't talk trash, that means you're soft or weak?
No. Because there's some things you can do without just talking trash. I mean, you can,
Everybody would expect Dion to, but was it special? Was Dion a special level?
Man. He's a comedian.
What's the best Dion talking trash story?
I can't say it on the radio.
Give me the version.
I can't. No, man, I can't. I cannot say
justice.
No, because I don't do it justice. I mean, and he would. Dion
Give me the one
had
that made you laugh, or the one you were like, "That was mean."
Oh man, I mean, to his own players. I'll give you one. I'll give you one story. So we're playing in a game, and we had a guy that went down. One of the players that went down had been getting hurt the entire season. One of our own players. So it's in the middle of the game. One of our guys, the same guy, goes down. And Dion walks over. He walks over, and I'm standing there looking over the top of our player that's on the ground again for the 12th time in the same game. And he's holding his knee, and Deion looks out of it. And the look, I mean, I can't tell you what he said, but it was, look at this, and I can't say what he said. But we're in the middle of a game, and he's talking trash to his own player that's on the ground. And that just defines who he is. He just has this way, and it loosened everything up. For me, it was like, man, I feel sorry for my boy that's on the ground, but I laughed. I laughed so hard at the fact of how Deion approached it. But that's him. I mean, there are certain guys that have to loosen up the game and loosen it up for everyone else. And that was Deion Sanders. And there's some other guys like Jalen Ramsey's probably the same way.
We get Darren Woodson with us, Will Cain, Ryen Russillo, Mike and Mike, ESPN Radio, Richard Sherman out, the Achilles. Yeah. What is it about the Achilles that some of these guys know? They not just when it happens, but he was on the injury report. It's almost like some guys feel like, I don't know how many more plays I have left with this team.
Yeah, I mean, when it starts to go, and I've seen it happen. I had a good friend when I played named Kevin Smith, and his Achilles had leading up to it. I mean, we went through a whole training camp where his Achilles was bothering him, and then all of a sudden it ended up going. But that's part of it. Guys get they can feel it. Especially if you're in tune with your body, and Richard Sherman is a guy that's definitely in tune with his body. He's known that there's a problem, and it just so happened on that play, but a tremendous. I mean, we can't just define his loss by what he does on the field. This guy he exudes confidence in the locker room for this football team. I mean, he is the guy, when you talk about the lightning bolt of this team, he's the guy that makes things go in that secondary. The Legion of Boom is not going to be the same. They can bring Earl Thomas back, they can bring Cam Chancellor back, but when you have Richard Sherman on that side of the ball by himself, outside on that Autobahn, taking care of his business, you can defend the rest of the field without even worrying about it.
He's 29 years old. He's 1 year away from his contract ending. Among the list of injuries you're worried about at that age, at that point in your career, is that that's number one? Really?
Man. That is that in the back, low back. I mean, to get back to, if this is happening when you're offensive lineman, maybe an inside D lineman, maybe a linebacker, and Johnson with the Kansas City Chiefs has gone through it a couple of times, but with Larry Johnson's gone through it a couple of times. But when you get further away from the ball, your entire game relies on your quickness with your feet and hand movements and all that. I mean, at the cornerback position, that's a devastating injury because you may never come back from that because you rely on the quick feet, you rely on the cutting and all that. And it's going to take some time for him to get the confidence back and then to get his feet work back and have the confidence to go out there and play at that level.
So even Shaquille Griffin, who's been really good, they were going to move out Lane, and there's just – talent-wise, even though there's talent back there.
They're not that kind of talent. Not that kind of talent. Makes things harder, man. It does because Richard Sherman, and I had it. I played against one of the greatest ever to play the game, and you leave him out there, he does his business.
That's Darren Woodson. All right, coming up next, an amazing story, new television show. All of us should want to be on it. It's ESPN Radio.